Dylan, do you think if you had tackled your feelings while you were playing, you may not have been maybe disciplined as often?
You taking the piss?
Right. Next level, straight in.
No, I was looking for this. I saw a Mike Tyson thing the other day, a meme. It was actually a quote. Social media made you way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it.
Word.
Hello and welcome to episode number 5 of the RugbyPass Offload show with me, Christina, and today I'm joined by Dylan Hartley and Jamie Roberts. We'll have our first ever guest joining us a little bit later on, but for now, hi guys, how has your week been?
Good evening, good afternoon. Yeah, good. England won. Happy, very good weekend.
Not so good. We lost. Wales lost. Not
and
ideal.
England won.
And England won, yeah, exactly. We were confident England got the job done. You know, when they got bonus point win, we were kind of confident they'd done enough. Yeah,
always a difficult, game, that Italy game, and I'm sure you've experienced that. You're expected to win, and you're expected to put a good amount of points on Italy. Well, we always did anyway, but it's never that easy. You either break them down in like the last kind of 15, 20 minutes, or it remains competitive throughout. And I think Italy, defensively remained competitive throughout. And England, they were convincing, but, it wasn't a breeze like I kind of thought it might be. But yeah.
No, they didn't. I think it was quite evident obviously that Barbarians game got canned. And it was quite evident they hadn't had a match together. There's only so much cohesion you can build in training. It was quite obvious that first half they hadn't played together for quite a while. So, but they did enough. I thought they were quite efficient in the way they played. They just waited for their chances and took them. And fair play to them through gritted teeth. Congratulations, England.
Yeah, congratulations, England.
Don't worry, we can cut that from the pod, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, that hurt me. That hurt me to say. But how awkward was the trophy presentation then the next day?
Yeah, it was. I think Six Nations could have saved some money. Whoever runs that thing, and they didn't need the fireworks and the streamers and stuff, did they? Half the boys in tracksuit tops, the other ones in polo shirts. It was all a bit weird. But I think the thing with a trophy lift or a celebration, it's usually like a release, or it kind of signifies, a couple of months of hard work, especially with the Six Nations. And, for England, that was 2 weeks of work and then, one game. So I think it'd be quite a weird feeling, and you can't celebrate that, especially 24 hours later, and there's no atmosphere to celebrate. And I'm sure the night before they had a few beers, but I think with one game under the belt, Eddie and I know Owen and the rest of the team will be happy to kind of draw a line under that tournament 8 months later and move on to this autumn tournament. So I think it's just a little bit of closure. I think for everyone as well. Shit, I wonder what the Scottish players are doing now. They won a game. They've probably got 2 weeks off.
National holiday.
Yeah. Jeez, what a game that was. I mean, what a result. I felt sorry for big Alun Jones, tip of the hat to him, but running out to an empty stadium. I can imagine that must have been quite a weird feeling for him, because I don't know if you've led the team out on a 50th cap or anything, but you don't want to be out there too long by yourself, do you?
No, I was lucky to do it in Paris in a Six Nations game. And it's a special achievement. It's such a shame he didn't get to share that moment. What an immense achievement, man. Jesus, it's so impressive. But it's such a shame he didn't get to share that moment at the Welsh National Stadium, Principality, in front of 75,000 people. Because I guess he's been immense for Wales down the years. And it's a testament to his professionalism and longevity in the game, really. I know you and Idols have played for quite a long time. Used to be in training against Alun Wyn and with Alun Wyn for many years. And I'd always kind of pride myself on being kind of the energy giver in training. I still do. And so I bounce between kind of forwards drills, backs drills, defence drills, attacks drills. I try and bring the energy. And there's one guy I could never out-enthuse, and that was Alun Jones. He always had this extra gear on me. He kind of he had this level of pride in him being that guy. And by all accounts, he still does that to this day. So to be doing that at 45, however old he is, it's mightily impressive.
It looks like he's had a tough paper round all uphill, the poor boy. You know how Wales are obviously struggling a bit at the moment with results, and I know we're going to talk about it a bit later. But do you think, with PVAC and people like that, continuity and kind of having that experience in Alun when there is much needed now? Like, it's not the time to blood new players and have a clear out, or would you say the time is to remain consistent with his selections and continue?
Well, it's fascinating, and the most fascinating thing for me is that because of COVID, the Rugby World Cup rankings have already been established, and Wales actually were fourth. I think it was at the turn of the new year, wasn't it? Or straight after the World Cup, basically. The rankings were decided, and they've now taken those rankings moving ahead to the next World Cup. That has never been the case before. It's always been the case that after a World Cup year, for the first 2 years, you are striving hard to achieve the best ranking for the next World Cup. So now that's out the window. Does this change how international sides approach the next season or two? Because, you know, I always I remember listening to Rassi Erasmus talk about the past World Cup cycle. He didn't even think about the World Cup until 2 years out, or even 18 months out. It was not even about the World Cup in Japan. It was about winning the next Test match. But I think all international sides now, you know, we've seen quite a few new caps being blooded over the past couple of months. And I think we'll see a lot more blooded over the next few months during this Autumn Nations Cup as well, because it's a perfect time now, you know, to look at new players, look if they can sink or swim in that Test environment.
Obviously, Dylan, you said last week that people need to calm down about the 4 defeats in a row under Pivac. Jamie, what do you now think about 5 defeats in a row? Like, what's the problem for Wales right now?
I said calm down last week. Now I'm saying panic, you know.
I think he probably needs to roll the dice a little bit on some younger players. And, you know, Dylan has spoken about, I don't think the core of the squad will change. I think there are some wonderful international, established, experienced players there to do the job for Wales who haven't had too much rugby. And so over the next month, or kind of 6 weeks, hopefully we'll see those players back fully fit and fully firing, because they weren't good last week. I think the problem for Wales at the minute revolves around the collisions and contact area. They just got no change there from Scotland, who were brilliant at the weekend. You know, I think it's the only time since I've, I guess, started playing Test rugby, and since then that I've been quite apprehensive about Scotland coming to Wales. The last time Scotland won in Wales was 2002, and before the match, I just had this sneaky feeling. I thought Wales would win, but just in the back of my mind, just the quality that Scotland have built over the last couple of seasons and what Greg is trying to achieve there, I was a little bit nervous. And unfortunately, that became reality. But Wayne wants to add a bit more width to the game. They want to play with pace and utilise the skill set of the players. However, you know as well as I do, in the Northern Hemisphere, when it gets a bit wet, when pitches are heavy, and you come up against line speed, you can't do that unless you get wing collisions and you get quick ball and you go forward. And Wales are just at the minute not doing that. The contact area wasn't good enough for the weekend. And no, I just look at what, you know, I look at sides now, and, you know, Jamie Ritchie being one of them over the ball and his carrying ability as well. The Scotland front row literally making 5 meters a carry kind of minimum every time they got the ball. They run onto the ball at pace. When I watch France and I watch Aldrit come onto the ball at pace, you know, I watch some sides that, you know, our forwards catch the ball kind of standing still, or they, you know, catch the ball standing still and then try and get momentum into the opposition. You watch Aldrit for France, it's mightily impressive, like the way he is coming 100%, and he catches the ball and doesn't break stride. And that means even if you run into 3 players, with his size and weight, he's going to make it hard for you, even into a brick wall. So, you know, there are times Wales are trying to evolve their style and get to width, but it's an old saying, isn't it? Have to go forward first. And they just have to try and find ways to do that. 1, with their best ball carriers, and 2, with their little intricacies around those, you know, pot of forwards.
I see in our notes, Sean Edwards, is it time for him to come back?
Oh, it's a 4-year deal with France, mate. Big money. I don't think he'll come back. You know, I'm delighted for Sean. I think he's obviously had an immediate impact at France. Wonderful coach, wonderful bloke. You know, probably the most influential coach in my career.
Would you say it's because of his kind of technical brilliance, or is it because he's such an emotive guy?
He's emotive. I just had a great kind of working relationship with him. You know, you really feel like he's on the pitch with you. He's that sort of coach. You know, you always used to tell us lads, you know, if you miss a tackle, I miss a tackle, sort of thing. You know, and if we conceded a try off set piece, he would blame himself because he hadn't prepped us well enough. You always felt he was that sort of bloke. But he there's no doubt he kind of used a motive. He liked to coach through fear. And he was the sort of coach, like if you miss a tackle on the pitch, the first thing you think of is, shit, I am up on the big screen on a Monday morning. Yeah. And he's coming for me. You know, we'd go in the team rooms after games and he'd have numbers 1 to 23 up on a PowerPoint presentation and, you know, in front of the whole side to see what he thought of your defensive performance.
I love that though, because like accountability with defense is huge, right? And do you think there's a direct link between him and France's kind of resurgence? Because, you know, whenever I've looked at France, I'd say they can attack, they've got set piece, but they almost have like this inconsistency of attitude. Yeah. And I know, I've never been coached by Sean, but I know plenty of people that have. And obviously I've had dealings with him in and around match days. He strikes the fear of God into people defensively. Like you can hear him, you know, pitch side. Do you think they've ever been coached with those kind of consistent technical and emotive consistencies that he brings? And do you think that's why France are obviously a lot more, well, on the up?
Mate, you've hit the nail on the head for me. Like, I don't think France have. How inconsistent is France's discipline in the game? You know, how often would you see them? You know, I look back to the World Cup World Cup quarter final against Wales, like absolutely dominated. And then the second row, Mahina elbows a bloke in the face and gets a red card on the biggest stage of them all. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And not even like a technical red card. This is a full discipline red card, you know, an inexcusable red card. And how often have we seen it? They've been in games, they've been in arm wrestles, they've been dominating games, and then their discipline just completely lets them down. And I've no doubt that France's resurgence, a lot of it has come from the back of Sean Edwards.
Mate, what about Jamie Ritchie? Oh, I can't get over it. I've actually watched him for a couple of years, but I just love like how he plays the game, and I think he's sort of player that Scotland could. Well, Scotland have been playing some great rugby for a few years, but I think he embodies what you want from a back rower and especially a forward, almost like your modern day enforcer. Like Jamie was just talking about his ball carrying and his jackal work, but like, you know, on the gain line, he is like making dominant hits. He's aggressive. He's confrontational, technically brilliant. I just think he's a sort of player. Do you know what? I'd love to see him. I don't want to say every time I'm on the pod, like talk about bolters for the Lions, but I'd love to see him. Like Scotland need at least one player for the Lions. So like maybe Stuart Hogg or Finn Russell and Jamie Ritchie.
Well, to discuss Ireland, I'm delighted to welcome to the show Ireland's CJ Stander. CJ, how are things?
All good, thanks for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I suppose we'll just get it out of the way. So we're going to talk about Saturday. So how did you reflect on Saturday and the tournament overall?
Straight to the point now, Mason. Tough all day, you know. I think looking at that game, back at it just today again, is you can't make those mistakes in an international game and expect to win. France is an unbelievable team at the moment. They're playing with flair again, and their forwards are putting them on the front foot. And we knew they were going to score tries from nothing, and they did that. So we didn't make it easy by not stopping them and not converting our chances, you know. So, yeah, looking back at it, it's a tough one because I reckon we were not far off from winning the competition, you know, if we look back in the first few games. But you need to finish the way you started, and disappointed. But next few weeks we've got another opportunity for a few wins, hopefully. How did you
approach that game? Because my understanding was you had to win and you had to score a lot of points, right?
Yeah.
But first and foremost, like you need to win. But then when you've got that in the back of your mind, knowing that you've got to score tries, that can somehow alter how you play. Yeah,
for sure. I think going into the game, we knew what was expected from us, you know. So still at the back of your mind, you wanna score those tries. But I think our plan was to, you could see it straight away. We got that penalty, and Conor Murray put his put the tee down, went for the points. We didn't get it, but that's another opportunity that puts pressure on us to get scoreboard pressure, and we knew we were going to have to stop their pack, and I think we struggled a little bit with that, and they got the upper hand, and that's the game.
Well, Johnny Sexton looked very frustrated when he was subbed off. What was said after the game?
Well, I know where Johnny's coming from. You know, you guys played against him, and you've seen him play. You know, he's a inspirational guy, and he's a guy that's in the thick of it. You know, so I think the disappointment was just him showing that he wanted to do more, and he feels he could have done more. You know, so afterwards, not a lot of words were spoken. We knew we weren't good enough. We just one of those games. You sit in the corner. You just take in what's going around you, and I think I grabbed a beer and just enjoyed it, because at the end of the day, if you win and if you lose and you played well, then fair play. But if you don't play well and you lose, then you have to take it on the chin as well, mate. It just happens.
Yeah, that's the way of the game, man. How impressive were France, mate? Obviously, you've probably played France quite a lot of times in your career, in your Test career. Like for me, I was watching that game, and Ireland are always a team that are dominant in the collisions contact area. The whole game is based around the front foot, especially with the pack you've got, you being at the kind of forefront of that. Are France a better team now? Because I've been mightily impressed by them the last couple of months.
Yes, for sure, Jamie. I think they are playing with flair again, and I think they've got a good setup where they've actually got some good set pieces again, and they've got direction in their game, you know. And those two young boys in the back line, they score tries from nothing, and that makes it difficult, because how do you defend that? You know it's going to come. You just don't know what's going to happen. But just to lay the foundation of their pack, they've got a big pack, physical. They're big boys, you know. So they put them on the front foot, and they work hard, you know. So it's good to see that they're back at it, you know, because it makes the competition better, and it makes it more enjoyable.
You have been nominated for Player of the Championship, and then I think, did you win Munster's Players Player of the Year as well?
I did. Thank you.
So congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks. No,
something positive, I suppose, to come out of it.
Yeah, it was up and down, you know. I mean, Sunday waking up, a bit of a sore head and worried about just the game and stuff, and then Monday was another good day, you know. So those things they don't come around often. It's just a massive honor for me and my family, because we've set out goals and we had a few tough years, and it's good to get a little win like that.
I was going to say, what's the game plan against Wales in 2 weeks, mate?
You wish, mate. You wish.
I reckon you could tell the game plan there. Wales still wouldn't have a chance. The confidence is shot. Bring back Jamie Roberts. They need the doctor there. They need the doc back.
They need the big man, man. They need the big man for sure.
Genuine question. Is it quite nice to kind of draw a line under Six Nations and move on now?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think because look, I don't want to take away from the competition and what we've done and as players and stuff, but it was so drawn out. Coming back to play the 2 games now was it felt like new competition again. So to get to the back of it, put it down, and then we're lucky enough to have another competition where we can steer things right. And look, I don't think we're far off. Again, I said it earlier on. I think we need to fix small things here and there. I think we're going to have a few hard conversations in the next few days, and that's needed as well. Sometimes you need a kick up and to sort yourself out and move on. You know.
Now, I hate having to ask this question, but Ireland have been bettered physically by England in the last few meetings. What's the solution against their size and power, CJ? I'm sure Dylan, you'll have an opinion on this too.
Man, it's something like the last few games we played against them. They just literally they are at their best, and they're physical, you know, and they've got unbelievable ball carriers all over the pitch. Like, you get around a corner 3 or 4 times in a different ruck, and it's different guys carrying the ball, you know. So going into a game like that, especially against England being very physical, you need to be at your utmost best during the week. Get yourself ready. So come Wednesday, that if you have a plan, we all have a plan always, but that plan needs to be embedded within you, that if it comes to that physical step and that confrontation about me and you, that you need to make sure that you can just bring that physicality. And I think last 2 times we played them, they were just better than us at that, you know. And yeah, that's probably, those are the games I enjoy the most, because it's literally men against men, and they've brought it. So I'm looking forward to the next matchup.
I think there's a common theme here, Jamie, and we were talking about it earlier. But like every game, like the foundations of the game are physicality. And no matter who you play, whether it's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, you need to base your game around physicality. And if you don't do that, like, you don't have a chance at winning the game.
Especially at Test rugby, you know, like there's far less space on the pitch against Test rugby, and especially like Test organised defences. Like there's so little space. You've got teams coming off the line against you, and you know every metre counts, every centimetre counts in Test rugby, especially when they're carrying or trying to win collisions. And you're dead right, Doles. Like all the games now, you know, unless you have a really good functioning set piece or can win collisions on the advantage line, you're not in with a chance, really.
And it needs to be from minute 1. You know, I think if you try to talk about it at halftime, it's too late. It's way too late. You're going to be in trouble, you know. So it's just a feeling on the day. You guys been involved with it, you know. You know, like you're on the front foot here. And I actually missed those days where team used to just shepherd you back to the try line. Those grab, catch, tackles. Those were the days, man. I enjoyed them the most. They're all gone. There's no more games like that.
It's all about the gain line. Everyone wants the gain line. Everyone wants quick ball.
Exactly.
CJ, you and James Ryan were in a bit of a scrap with Itoje the last time you guys played. Can you remember what was said?
I was a bit away from the scuffle, and then I got up trying to help James, and then Maro, being the man he is, like he gets under everyone's skin. Doesn't matter what game it is, even training with them in the Lions, against them, with them. That's the way he plays, you know. That's why he's such a great. That's why he's one of the best players out there, you know. So, and then suddenly my jersey's over my head. I can't even remember what was said. I just remember afterwards it was a good laugh, because I know Maro with the Lions, you know. So I think him and James were just literally trying to see who's gonna take the 4 or 5 jersey, you know. So that is a great contest.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting for sure. Speaking of another Welsh person, before we move on to Tackle Your Feelings, CJ. So Alun Jones played his, and we mentioned earlier on, he played his world record-breaking 149th Test appearance on Saturday. So we wanted to pay a bit of a tribute to him and get everyone's best stories of him. So CJ, you obviously played with him for the Lions. Do you have any good stories of Alun? I
actually roomed with them for a week, just as we set off on the tour. So I wish I had more stories of him. I just remember, like, my boots for some reason didn't want to fit me. So in the room, I was like, "Oh, Alun, like, I'm struggling with these boots." It's probably not the best story, but it just shows you how professional he was. He had this massive bag in his like luggage, like pulled it out. He had like shoe stretchers. I've never seen him in my life. This man pulls them out of his bag as if it's nothing. Like, so that in that bag was like a bag of tricks, I'd say. It's probably a stretching bag and all of the bands you needed. So just shows the professionalism of the man. I've never seen a guy who brings shoe stretchers with him overseas. Well done.
So shoe stretchers, these are the things that go inside shoes, yeah, that keeps the shape.
Yeah. So literally the one, like, you turn, like you put them in and you turn them, and he was like, you need to put them in hot water, put it in and then turn it. I used the thing for like the whole tour. I actually think I broke one. He's probably going to see this and go, "Well, you owe me a pair," but lucky mate, you're never going to get them back.
CJ, I know I've obviously tortured you talking about Saturday, but I'm just going to have to bring you back to the World Cup. Obviously, that was a challenging time. Can you very quickly, briefly talk about the experience on and off the pitch for you guys?
I think the World Cup, for me, I wanted to really put myself out there and go to a World Cup, sign my contract so that I made sure that I'm going to be in selection, and then got selected. So the year before, we were in top form, won the Grand Slam, and then going over there, we trained hard. Like, pre-season was one of the toughest ones I've ever done in my life. So physically wise, probably we were fit and we were ready to go. And then, that first game, brimming, lost against Japan. I think that's where the train just left the station. We struggled against Russia then as well, and in Samoa. So, look, Captain hindsight, you think about, we probably didn't talk about winning the World Cup. We probably should have. A lot of people will think it's cocky, but if just thinking to myself, you need to have those conversations. What will it take, and what will you give as a player and as a group, and what do you stand for? We had all those things. We didn't really talk about winning the World Cup and getting ourselves to a quarters. We did, but not even getting to a quarter and into a semi. You need to really put yourself in that. What can I say, in that cup? Because the World Cup is you lads been there more times than I did, but like, we're just winning the World Cup is it's massive. Like, it's a tough competition. It's a lot of hard games in consecutive days. Like, and to keep you mentally strong and fit to be there is a task by itself. So to win it, hats off to any guy who won it. It is special. So I just think we didn't prepare mentally, saying that, okay, this is us. We're gonna go here for this amount of weeks, and this is it. We're gonna win it, and if it fails, then let's have it. So yeah, the quarters against New Zealand, all the other games we won against them, we were way off par, and I mean, you can't play like that again.
Well, today you became the latest player to support the Tackle Your Feelings campaign by launching your ambassador video. So since 2016, the Tackle Your Feelings campaign, run by Rugby Players Ireland and funded by Zurich and the Z Zurich Foundation, encourages people to take control and be proactive about their mental well-being. This is an all-Ireland campaign, and it features some of Ireland's most loved rugby players opening up about their own mental well-being challenges and strategies they use to overcome them, so that the people of Ireland and abroad can follow their lead. So CJ, tell me, why did you feel it was important to get involved in this campaign?
Yeah, I think using the app and just being in a few tough sports in my career and just in personal life was important for me, especially over lockdown period, and just to get a message out there that people need to look after each other. It's firstly for me, I'm trying to be kind to myself firstly, and then to other people. You never know when someone needs a shoulder or just a word. You don't know what they're going through, because sometimes I feel as rugby players, we're like, all right, I'm just going to get through this and get out on the other side. Like, sometimes you lose games and then you don't know why someone didn't perform, and it's probably something off the pitch most of the time, and you don't know it. If you just ask them, they'll probably share it with you, and then you understand where someone's coming from, because I believe this: no one goes out to not be good on a Saturday or in a training session either. So yeah, we just need to look after each other. I think that's probably the main message, because you don't have to be all right all the time. You can be vulnerable, and I think as a rugby player, sometimes we tend to not be vulnerable and go, all right, I'm a tough man, or I'm a tough girl, I'm going to get through this. So that's it.
Oh, that's awesome. And you mentioned there just about obviously how important it is to be kind. And I think especially with social media, sometimes that might not always be the case for you guys. So can you talk us through maybe some of the trolling that you may have received, or, what kind of stuff has been maybe directed at you, and maybe how it's affected you and your family?
Yeah, look, for me personally, I know I put myself out there on weekends to get judged. Judge is not the thing to do. It's not for me to judge someone else, but people do tend to do it, and that is fine. Personally wise, my family has got a lot of, like my wife actually has got a lot of stick on social media, especially after the World Cup, because she's proud of me, and she knows what I go through as a person and as a player, and then not doing well in the World Cup. She was trying to stand up for me and the team and stuff, and I feel that it's fine to me personally, I'm putting myself out there again, and it's fine to get criticism, because that is the game. But as soon as you attack someone's family, I took that the wrong way, and I still do. I get like my hair stands up in the back of my neck, and I just want to put it out there and then charge everyone that is saying these things. But that's not the right way to do it. It's you're going to have to deal with criticism in your career, and as a person, doesn't matter what you do, you need to get the right tools. That's where, again, with the Tackle Your Feelings app, especially with the pro side launching it now, it doesn't matter who you are, the app gives you that opportunity to get the right tools to see how to handle with different situations. And it's actually a good distraction, because if me and you have a problem now, and I go online and I go on the app, and this takes my mind away, and if I come back, I might think, well, probably actually you're not really saying something wrong, so just leave it there, or just say, well, I'm sorry, So it gives you an opportunity to just step back and go, okay, let's look at the situation. I can deal with this. Happy days.
Dylan, do you think if you had tackled your feelings while you were playing, you may not have been maybe disciplined as often?
You taking the piss?
That next level, straight in.
No, I was looking for this. I saw a Mike Tyson thing the other day, a meme. It was actually a quote. Social media made you way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it.
Word.
CJ, big fan of what you said, mate. I think it's massively important. And like, ultimately, rugby elicits so many emotions in players, fans, and whatever. And it's very easy to kind of lose your mind over it. I used to call Instagram, me and my mate used to call it the time thief. And literally, you're right. You can be on that shit for hours and hours. And you look up and 3 hours of your life is just gone. And you've just fed your head with useless information that you don't need. And you're right, giving people time of day in your head where in reality you wouldn't even listen to them if you spoke to them on the street. So yeah, it is important. CJ, big fan of your work, mate.
Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. Thanks, brother.
Well, I think on that note, CJ, we'll let you go. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for being our first guest.
Oh, lovely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And thanks. I enjoyed both of your work. So thanks for having me, and thanks for being kind. I appreciate it, lad.
Congrats on the awards.
Mate, all the best in a couple of weeks against Wales. Not too much luck.
Yes,
Thanks, CJ. Bye. Cheers. We saw a video of Maro Itoje training during the week, and his intensity is just insane. What's he like in England?
Yeah, it's basically the same guy that told me about training to get better. He actually then went on to communicate that to the whole team. So it's almost, I know as an England player, it's you're never just waiting for the weekend. Like every minute of every session is preparing for that. So just deal with that next moment in front of your face. So train to get better. And Maro kind of epitomizes that because he's such a competitor. Like Eddie wants an environment where everyone's striving to win. You know, they talked about winning that World Cup for 4 years. It was interesting to hear CJ say that they didn't actually talk about going and getting it, whereas England talked about it for 4 years in my time there. And then when I left, they were still talking about that. And they didn't quite do it, but I think it was there for them. They could have reached out and got it with two hands if they'd made that final push. But that England environment is basically built for everyone to compete and to push and to win. You know, they talk about winning the weight sessions, winning, win everything. Just try and, be as competitive as possible. And maybe that's the Australian side of Eddie coming out, because every Aussie I know is a competitive sod. So no, Maro's, if you look at him, he is physically, he's athletic. But I think if I looked at his game, I'd say it's built on his competitive kind of nature, his competitive confrontation, his competitive physicality, everything you want in a big modern kind of lock. He's a great example to kids. I'm not saying he's not skillful, because he is, but he's basically built his career off that energy and that work rate. All those things that you don't, it's just it's a decision. You can make that choice to make that effort that he does. He's a great competitor.
Well, CJ kind of mentioned there that he has the ability to get under your skin when you're playing against him. Would he do that in English camp as well? Like, would he be able to get in under the skin of the guys he's training with, or does he just?
There are training standards. You don't push too far. No, he's just a great role model, and I think even as a young guy coming into that team, his energy, and I think when you are a young player coming into an international side, the one thing that you've got to bring is enthusiasm. Your body's young and supple. You can't complain about how sore you are. But, it's one thing that I've always admired. He's kind of quiet, unassuming off the field. But as soon as he comes into almost his leadership role, whether it's talking about line out defense or leading the team on the field, he literally comes alive. He's this whole different personality. And like I said, it's all built on being a competitor.
So what did you guys make of the report in the Daily Mail that Saracens are set for promotion back up to the Premiership without playing a single game, amongst fears that the Championship season will not go ahead? And then Ealing Trailfinders could buy their way into the new 14-team top flight?
Do you know what? if that championship doesn't go ahead due to COVID, and as the months pass by, that's probably looking more and more likely. With that kind of that level of rugby not getting played, I think they should draw straws. There should be like a lottery in the championship. So who goes up?
What if some people don't want to go up?
Okay, well, they can withdraw from the lottery. So all the teams that want to go up, they just literally, it's a straight shootout. Pick straws. Thank you very much. Fairest way to do it.
I think it's a good thing. Like, I don't think Champ Rugby can afford to go back. I think there's suggestions over mothballing or freezing it. I think Sarries coming back up automatically should be a given. And let's be honest, Saracens are good for the Premiership. They're good for European rugby as well. If Ealing have serious aspirations, which they do, they've got serious cash. I think it's going to cost near 50 mil to get the infrastructure and whatnot. And I think the owner basically said if he needs to spend 7 million, he can do that happily.
He could employ you then.
Oh, we've already covered this earlier. You know, if he's got 350 mil and he said he wants to put it all into rugby. So if that involves me and you coaching, Jamie, we will go. I will commute 1 day a week for that. I'll go down. I'll just pull strings at the top. You can do D. We have a good time. But no, I think if they've got serious aspirations and they've got the money and a long-term plan, I don't have a problem with it. There'll be cries of, Yorkshire or Leeds and teams from the north. But I think if the Premiership is going to, I don't know what the answer is, but I think a ring-fenced league would be good. And I think coming out of COVID, the time to do it would be now.
Jamie, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's obviously there are some teams without the infrastructure to survive in the Premiership, and they will never have it and don't want it either. So they're happy playing and operating at that level. Obviously, Saracens would be desperate to get back up, and I've no doubt if they did play the season, they'd be good enough to win every game at a canter and get back promoted. The problem with ring fencing is that twofold, really, and this argument has been had many times. You know, do you kind of squash the ambitions of those trying to come up? And then does it just become this league where teams are existing and are not striving to play at a higher level? And two, does it completely...
Like the Pro 14?
Well done. Do you completely relieve the pressure on relegation from the Premiership? I mean, for supporters and for players as well, that pressure is arguably what makes the league at the bottom end of the table and the top end of the table. And so it does, you know, as well as anyone, mate, you win 2 or 3 games in the Premiership, you're up around kind of playoff spots, mate, you lose 3-4 games, you're hovering around that bottom 4, and then it's you know, kind of twitchy bum time. But that pressure is great. It's great for the sport. It's great for supporters as well. So I don't know. I'm torn on the old ring fence stuff, but God knows what's going to happen if this championship season can't be played. What the right thing is, you know, whether Ealing can potentially buy their way. You know, that was the report today in the Daily Mail. Whether they can buy their way in. Can other clubs then turn around and say, well, hang on a minute, no, we want to be in the Premiership as well? You know, what's the fairest solution? That decision is obviously above our heads. So I'm glad I don't have to make that choice.
This is just my opinion, but I don't have a problem with Sarries come back up because they were going to come back up, and there's no league for them to play in at the moment in the Championship, and we'd all be worse off for not seeing those England internationals play. They add to the competitions when they're not cheating, and they fly a flag of hope in terms of English rugby. A bit like Exeter, that they're flying the flag now, but they are good for the sport, and that's coming from me, who hated Sarries for years, playing against them, and hated what they did. But if you look at big picture where the game's at, we need some good news stories. So if they stick to the bloody cap and just play other England players and keep developing future England players and compete in tournaments, they're good for Gates. They're good for kids.
I think, well, let's talk about the Barbarians, because that was quite topical. I mean, like, one of my most amazing weeks in rugby would have been the Barbarians in 2009. And, like, you meet in Park Lane, Grosvenor House, and I was 21, you know, young kid on the test scene, and turned up to basically a team of superstars. You know, Matt Field, Habana, Gitto, Fury Dupree, Jacques Fourie, like Schaltberger, Rocky Elsom, like the list was endless. And I was this young kid, just coming down the M4. I don't think I'd ever stayed on Park Lane in London. And just an absolutely unbelievable week. So, you know, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'd be out every night. You know, best restaurants in London. You know, go out, really get to know the lads over hydration sessions, as they call them. And it was fantastic. But the training was embarrassing. Like, we turned out to train at Richmond Rugby Club, and it was an international side. Like, and we could not get the ball to the winger without dropping it. One, because the weather was shit, and two, like, you know, I think the effects of the night before were taking hold on everyone. And I remember just getting to Thursday night and thinking, right, that's enough now. That's enough now. You know, we're playing the All Blacks Saturday at Twickenham. You know, it's going to be sold out at Twickenham, playing the All Blacks. Surely we cannot go out. And I found myself in a nightclub at Leicester Square with Andy Powell and a few of the other lads. And I think we got to about 10, 11 o'clock, and we're like, right, boys, let's go home now. Let's just have one day tomorrow to completely, you know, relax, switch off and chill. And we did. Friday was very, very chilled. And I've never seen a group of guys flick the switch as they did on a Saturday morning. And this kind of disproves a theory that your training week is all important. Like, we got up Saturday morning, lads flipped the switch, and we went and beat the All Blacks at Twickenham. And to this day, it's kind of a minor miracle how that happened. It was kind of reverse psychology, really, I think. But I really learned a lesson in that week that, you know, it's all about the 80 minutes on a Saturday. Regardless of how well you prepare, you turn up on a Saturday for 80 minutes in the right frame of mind, you've got a chance of beating any team. And I just, you know, that week for me, and I feel, look, I think what the Barbarians lads this week, a few weeks back did was not representative of the Barbarians. So, you know, they made poor decisions to go out and put the game at risk, not just the game, but people's health and stuff as well. But, you know, those are some of my favourite memories.
You never know. You guys might get them. Would you get the call? If you got the call up again, Jamie, would you play for them again?
The Barbars, without hesitation. Like, it was honestly, when I reflect on my career, one of the, if not the most enjoyable week, actually. All
right. Well, let's wrap it up there. So that's it from us for today. Thanks to CJ Stander, Jamie Roberts, and Dylan Hartley. And thanks to you for listening. More offloading next week. Please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you get it as soon as it's released. Leave us a rating and review. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well.